Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So now that I've finished with Ant-Man, I'm officially done with the MCU Phase 2. So I thought I would just kind of give a brief overview of my thoughts on Phase 2 so far, and then go ahead and rank these 6 movies in Phase 2. So Phase 2 started off with Iron Man 3 and Thor the Dark World, which is kind of a little bit of a rocky start. But then we got Captain America the Winter Soldier, which is maybe one of the best MCU movies ever. Guardians of the Galaxy is solid. I love Avengers Age of Ultron, and Ant-Man was also really solid. So I think overall Phase 2 is still a really good phase. I think that we got some good continuation of the storylines from Phase 1 with the third Iron Man movie, the second Thor movie, the second Captain America movie, second Avengers movie. But then we also got some new movies with Guardians of the Galaxy and Ant-Man. We got a new cast of characters there. And then in Age of Ultron, we got introduced to Wanda and Vision. And then in Captain America Winter Soldier, we got introduced to the Falcon. So we got some new characters, but really not too many new characters. And I think that is kind of really important that we continued with a lot of the characters that we started off in Phase 1. And then we kind of added just a few new characters and 2 new movie cast of characters. And it really doesn't feel like we're throwing too much at the audience. Also, in Phase 2, we disassemble S.H.I.E.L.D. And then we also slowly introduced the idea of the Infinity Stones. So we learned about the Ether, which is an Infinity Stone from Thor the Dark World. And then in Guardians of the Galaxy, we get the Power Stone. And the Collector kind of tells us a little bit about how the Infinity Stones were created and where they came from. And then Age of Ultron, Thor also talks about the Infinity Stones. And we learn the Scepter held the Mind Stone. And then we get a post-credit scene of Thanos getting ready to collect all the Infinity Stones. So it's a small, subtle build-up of the Infinity Stones. It's not throwing us, into the deep water of the Infinity Stones and just having it go over our head. It's kind of a nice, slow introduction, which is something that I think this phase does really well. I think going forward, the phases kind of tend to complicate things a little bit too much. But I think Phase 2, it's only 6 films like the first phase, but I think Phase 1 did a good job of just introducing us to the characters, to the world, to S.H.I.E.L.D., and then Phase 2, we kind of reevaluate the Avengers and where they are, and then we learn a little bit about the Infinity Stones, which obviously are going to be important in Phase 3, and I just think that it works and it's really balanced very well throughout all of these 6 films. Alright, so now let's move on to my rankings of the 6 films. So, it's probably no surprise, but coming in at number 6 is going to have to be Thor the Dark World, because it's probably the worst MCU movie. But that said, I still enjoy Thor the Dark World. I don't think it's a terrible movie. I think there's some enjoyable things in it, like the Loki stuff. And I do enjoy some of the action. It does kind of fall apart with all the Jane stuff, though. And definitely towards the end, it just completely falls apart. But it's still a decent film, but it is definitely the worst, and especially the worst of this group of films. Number 5 is going to have to be Iron Man 3. I still enjoy Iron Man 3, especially the first half of it. Everything after they leave Tennessee, I think, just really kind of falls apart. The villain stuff at the end doesn't work really well. But I think there's still enough charm in the Tony Stark character that kind of elevates the movie a lot and makes it fun. And it's not the worst of the Iron Man movies. It's slightly better than Iron Man 2, which I still enjoy Iron Man 2 also. But it's definitely probably the weakest next to Thor the Dark World in this batch of Phase 2, because we get some really good movies going forward. So unfortunately, Iron Man 3 is going to be number 5. So coming in at number 4, this is probably a tough one. It's kind of a toss-up, but I'm going to go with Guardians of the Galaxy, because I'm not a huge fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy. I definitely enjoyed this film a lot more on this rewatch, which was a big surprise for me. I do think it has some problems, though, especially with the villain, and I do think the pacing kind of slows down after the prison break a little bit. So for those reasons, it's going to be ranked at number 4. Number 3 is going to have to be Ant-Man. For similar reasons to Guardians of the Galaxy, it's really kind of a toss-up. The Ant-Man villain is just not really very good, but I think Ant-Man doesn't have the lack of pace I think it's very well paced out throughout. I think the ending is still really good with the pulling off the heist. And I really love a lot of the characters in there. And I just love the visual use of the shrink down small world. I just find that to be really fun. And so for that, Ant-Man's going to be number 3 for me. Alright, so coming in at number 2, this might be a little bit more different than other people because I happen to enjoy Avengers Age of Ultron, I think more than most people. So number 2 in Phase 2 is going to be Avengers Age of Ultron. I just really enjoy watching this movie. I know it has problems. I know Ultron's not a great villain and all of that stuff. I run over the problems in my review, but I think there's still a lot of good stuff in here. Everything with Cap I think is great because I love Cap. It also kind of sets up that sort of dynamic and sort of split between Cap and Tony. They have very different philosophical views on how to save the world, which is eventually going to cause their split in Civil War, and I think that kind of starts here a little bit. I like the use of Hawkeye and Black Widow and Banner. Thor's stuff didn't work very well, but I love Wanda and her brother and the introduction to Vision, and there's just a lot of really good scenes. I just love seeing the Avengers interact with each other, especially like the party scene at the beginning and when they're on the farm. I think all that stuff is just really fun, and I just really love hanging out with these characters. So for me, Avengers Age of Ultron is number 2. So of course that means number 1 is going to be Captain America the Winter Soldier. I love this movie. I love Captain America. He's my favorite MCU character. And I just love the sort of political thriller vibe that they have in the Winter Soldier. And the action is really amazing as well. Every action scene, and there's a lot of action scenes, I think is really well done. I think the idea of Cap not trusting the government and sort of that disillusionment and everything, and also with Natasha as well, I think all that's really well done. I like the introduction of Sam Wilson, the Falcon. I like the villains. The Winter Soldier's great. I think Robert Redford was good in his role as Alexander Pierce. We get Nick Fury. We even get a little bit of Maria Hill. I think this movie just has it all. And for those reasons, it's number 1 in the Phase 2, and it might even be number 1 overall in the Marvel MCU movies, just because I think it's just so well executed. It's very hard to find a flaw in that movie, and I just think it's amazing. So yeah, so those are my rankings for the MCU Phase 2 movies. Number 6, Thor the Dark World. Number 5, Iron Man 3. Number 4, Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 3, Ant-Man. Number 2, Avengers Age of Ultron. And number 1, Captain America the Winter Soldier. So let me know what you guys think about all these movies and the Phase 2 overall in the comments section below. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button if you like this video, and subscribe to the channel for more Marvel reviews. And until next time, everybody, fine, I'll do it myself. Bye.